So members of Congress have introduced a new bill that would effectively end online ammunition sales nationwide. This bill is called the Stop Online Ammunition Sales Act, and despite the name, this bill has nothing to do with stopping crime, and instead it is focused on ending the online purchase of ammunition nationwide. So let's break down what is happening with this proposed bill, what it does, and why it's so dangerous. Now, before we jump into this video, if you want to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is simply to subscribe. You can also turn on the notification bell, all notifications, turn those on, because that helps to ensure that YouTube will actually send you these videos once I release them. I also want to thank one of the main supporters of this channel, which is Attorneys on Retainer. When it comes to self-defense protection, in my opinion, AOR is in a league of their own. They're backed by an actual law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom, and they're always trying to expand upon their benefits and give you the most you can get as a member of their program. And right now they're also doing a convention here at the end of February. So if you're interested, if you want to come to the convention, I will be there with a bunch of other content creators and speakers. It's going to be a good time. You can hang out with us. So if you're interested, check that out using the link down below. And also don't forget, if you want to sign up for an AOR membership, you can use my code ARMSCHOLAR to get $25 off of your membership fee. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video, we're going to be talking about a new bill which was introduced into Congress, and it aims to end the online purchase of ammunition nationwide. House Democrats, these members of Congress, have introduced multiple versions of this idea over the years, and now the current proposal is being pushed once again. It's mirroring some earlier legislation, but now, like I mentioned, it's backed as HR 7166, and they're branding it as a common sense bill to reduce crime by essentially restricting the purchase of online ammunition. HR 7166 is called the Stop Online Ammunition Sales Act, but when you kind of strip away the whole marketing language and this anti-gun language, the intent of this bill is very obvious. Essentially, its goal is to make ammunition harder to buy, make it more expensive, make it less accessible, and essentially normalize that the government can monitor gun owners who are purchasing ammunition in bulk. So here's what this legislation would do in practice. First, it would ban direct-to-consumer online ammunition sales by requiring face-to-face identification and verification by going through an FFL for those type of purchases. It means that if you buy ammunition online, you still must appear in person to a licensed dealer, and you have to physically, give them your ID. They have to examine that and verify that you can have that ammunition. This is similar in some ways to what we've seen some states like California do, where they already have a system like this in place. For example, like I mentioned, California has this entire ammunition background check system where purchases of ammunition must go through an FFL, and you have to do 1 or 2 background checks to purchase that ammunition. And this also ended our ability here in the state of California to simply purchase ammunition online and have it sent directly to our house. This California law, like I mentioned, is being challenged in the Ninth Circuit. It's heading to en banc panel oral arguments, I believe in March. But now House Democrats are kind of following that playbook, and they're trying to take that law, maybe change it in some ways, and apply it to a nationwide ammunition restriction and just put this in place for everyone. Now, the second thing that this act would do is it would expand upon federal licensing requirements to ammunition dealers, kind of layering in some new compliance costs and regulations and some regulatory hurdles that these businesses would have to go through to be in compliance with this law. Third, it would impose some mandatory reporting for bulk ammunition purchases. Bulk purchases under this act are defined as anything more than 1,000 rounds within 5 business days. And I know a lot of people, myself included, have purchased bulk ammunition in the past, more than 1,000 rounds, based on price or convenience or sales that are going on. But now, if you do that, if this act were to become law, you would have to report those purchases to the government. Under this act, you would have to report to the U.S. Attorney General, to state law enforcement, to local law enforcement, and identify that you had this bulk ammunition purchase. And again, this is not about stopping criminals. It's simply a way about, trying to track lawful consumers and effectively probably, put you on some sort of registry and keep an eye on you and just, treat you as a criminal just because you're buying more than 1,000 rounds within a 5 business day time period. So why is this such a big problem? Why does this run into constitutional issues? Well, courts have already made this issue kind of clear. The Second Amendment does not just protect firearms, it also protects access to ammunition. because without ammunition, the right is essentially meaningless, because to have the firearm itself but no ammunition kind of voids the Second Amendment right altogether. Even before Bruen, courts recognized that ammunition restrictions burden the core of the Second Amendment. And after Bruen, that standard is even stricter. Under Bruen, the government must show a historical tradition of firearms regulations that justify these type of modern restrictions. And here's the problem that Congress will have with this act. There is no historical tradition of banning the remote purchase of ammunition. There is no tradition of face-to-face identification and these type of checks for these ammunition purchases. And there is no tradition of government reporting thresholds for lawful ownership and purchase of ammunition just because you're buying something over 1,000 rounds. In fact, history points to the opposite direction when it comes to this issue. Firearms and ammunition were commonly sold through things like catalogs and also stores and magazines and things like that, even before the internet existed. So this type of outside purchase of ammunition without going to a gun store has always existed. It's been around for a really long time, and it was before even the internet became a thing. Now, supporters of this bill say that it is for public safety and that public safety must come before convenience, and that is how they're framing this, but of course that is misleading. This bill does not target criminals at all. Criminals do not buy ammunition online under their own names. Criminals don't submit, IDs. They won't comply with this law. They don't care about this reporting threshold. They're not going to report or do anything like that. So this bill really is all about targeting law-abiding gun owners, competitive shooters, hunters, just lawful gun owners, and making it harder, more costly, and even more restricted for you to exercise your two-way rights. Now, on top of that, one of the big concerning things with this bill is the fact that they have this reporting requirement for the purchase of more than 1,000 rounds, and they treat that as inherently suspicious and something that the government needs to monitor. As many of you guys know, buying 1,000 rounds is not extreme. It's not unusual. It's not something that should be flagged or the government should be watching. In fact, a single training course that maybe you go to, you can burn, 1,000 rounds or more. Or if you shoot, more than one time a month, you're going to go through more than 1,000 rounds. So purchasing ammunition in bulk and more than 1,000 rounds is not outside the norm. But of course, anti-gunners and Democrats think that nobody needs more than 1,000 rounds. And you always see these reports where they raid someone, they say, oh, they had an arsenal, and they say, they had so much ammunition, but then really it's just like a box of 500 rounds of ammunition. And, most of us have way more than that because we shoot a lot. We believe in the Second Amendment. We go to a lot of training courses. We have firearms that we want to shoot, different variations. And so having more than 1,000 rounds is not outside of the norm. And so we also know that ammunition is consumable. We go through it. It's not something that just replenishes itself. So as we shoot, we have to purchase more. And a lot of people just do that all in one go because, again, it's more convenient. You can get better prices online oftentimes as well than in your local stores. And then also, like I mentioned, sometimes your local store doesn't have what you want. Treating these ordinary purchases as something that is a reportable event is not about safety or policy. It's just simply about outright surveillance and keeping an eye on gun owners. So that's what the Stop Online Ammunition Sales Act is all about. That's what it's trying to do. It's not about common sense. It's not about public safety, but it's a direct assault on the practical ability to exercise your Second Amendment rights. This bill, in fact, should be rejected outright. The odds of it gaining momentum is very slim unless Congress kind of reshapes after the midterms, if the Democrats get a majority. But even then, even if this were to pass, the odds of Trump signing it into law is very slim, unless maybe he has something like another huge two-way blunder and does something weird again when it comes to the Second Amendment. But if he does that, especially with something this big, talking about ammunition purchases and online purchases, kind of banning those, making a registry for bulk purchases, that is something he would get a lot of blowback for. So I don't see him doing that. Regardless, Americans who care about their constitutional rights should be paying close attention to this. Talk to your members of the House, talk to your members of Congress and the Senate as well. Tell them that you do not support this type of bill and it should get zero momentum and should be shot down. So as this develops more, if we get more information, I will let you guys know. If you like this video and you'd like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is simply to like, comment, and subscribe. All of those things help to fuel the algorithm and just tells the YouTube algorithm that you appreciate this type of content and it should share it to more people. But as always, thank you so much for all of your support. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.